What's up guys, it's Josh from Smoking Anywhere for Pennies. Today I'm actually not doing a tutorial on a mod or an atomizer, but I'm actually going to show you a few techniques in coiling that I've found over the years that have really worked for me. There's really no right way or wrong way to do a coil, but these are just things that work for me. Okay, so I can't stress this enough. The better tools you have, the better your coil is going to be. They don't necessarily have to be top of the line, surgical grade, stainless steel tools, but as long as you have something that works for you, you're good. The reason I like these tweezers is because they're angled and they have such a fine point on them. You can get in even the tightest of spots with these. These right here are just some simple fingernail clippers. The reason I like these is because you can get the closest cut possible. The reason I use a paper clip is because when you're trying to coil around silica wick, it wants to move around on you. If you take it and you put it against a paper clip, you have a hard surface to roll against. You can pick up the screwdriver kit right here for about $1 at the dollar store. The reason I like it is because it has such fine points on them for just such precise adjusting. And of course, just a pair of conventional scissors. If you're cutting something like stainless steel, sometimes the fingernail clippers just don't cut it. Another thing you may want to consider is a resistance tester. If you do not have a Z-Max or any other device that'll test your resistance for you, you can pick these up online. All it does is you screw your device in. Once you're done coiling it, turn it on, and it'll give you the resistance. And last but not least, a pair of latex gloves. The reason I wear these is so that the oil from my hands does not get on my coil. One thing you may notice is frayed ends whenever you cut your wick. If this happens, just take it and roll it the way the rest of the wick is going. Alright, so let's get to some coiling methods. Right now I'm using a Phoenix rebuildable atomizer. These are one of the most simple to coil, so I'm going to show you on this. There's many ways you can coil the Phoenix. The first way I'm going to show you is just with one wick and one coil. Okay, so you have your wick cut. Your next step is going to be to wrap the wire around the wick. One thing I find really helpful is to actually run a lighter very lightly under this wire to strengthen it. I'm just using a conventional Bic lighter you can pick up at any gas station or store. You just want to light it until you can see it turn red and then move along. Putting a flame on this wire will actually make it a little bit stronger. So what that means is once you actually do get your wick coiled, this will move a lot less. Alright, so you got your wick and your wire, but you don't have a hard surface like a paper clip to roll against. That's not to worry, this is actually my preferred method of doing so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to trap it between my index finger and my thumb and just start rolling. Once I get about 3 coils in, I just move my fingers up a little bit to hold them in place. And remember, when rolling, slower is better. One thing I would recommend is before adjusting this coil, actually put it on the atomizer you're going to be using. One thing you will notice about my coil is that it's slightly off center. Well, that's okay, because I put the wire on the right side of this screw and the right side of this screw. Another thing you might notice is that the gaps in between all these coils aren't even. They need to be even. So these are where my tweezers come in. All I have to do is take these and adjust them. As you can see, these coils are pretty evenly spaced out. They don't have to be exact, but they do need to be very close. Okay, so I've got my coil set in my Phoenix, so my next step is going to be to test the resistance of this. I'm going to be using a Z-Max, which is my personal favorite mod, to do so. Now after you put the atomizer on your mod, it's best to add a little bit of liquid directly onto the coil just to make sure it doesn't burn up. Today, I'm going to be using blueberry cheesecake, which you can find on SmokingAnywhereForPennies.com. And that should be just enough to test the resistance. As you can see, I'm running 1.6 ohms, which is a great resistance for this atomizer. After you've made sure your resistance is okay, apply a little bit more liquid to the coil, and then burn it to see if it's burning evenly. Seems to be working great. Okay, so say rolling without a hard surface isn't working out for you. These are the things I would use for a hard surface to roll against. Either a paper clip, a syringe, or what I don't have in this picture is a very thin nail. I'm going to use a syringe for the example. Okay, so I have the syringe out of the package from Smoke Anywhere for Pennies. What I find is best is to actually take this cap off right here. You do this by unscrewing it, and then take it out of the cap. Now I have my wick, my wire, and the cap from my syringe. Now this is how you roll against the hard surface. Simply pick the syringe up and place the wick on top of it. Make sure it's nice and tight because you don't want a gap in between your coils. So after this, you just want to do the same thing you did before. Grab it with your index finger and your thumb and just start wrapping it around. Make sure these coils are really tight because when you take the syringe out, there will be room between the coil and the wick. You want your coil to look just like this. Often when people roll around a syringe, they'll get a gap right under the wick because of the space. This is why you have to keep it tight. So what you see me do in a lot of my videos is actually just taking a wick and folding it in half. The reason I do this is because it's my favorite method. Reason being is because it holds a lot more liquid and feeds it a lot more efficiently to the coil. The downside of this is that you can't use a hard surface, such as a syringe, to roll it around. But it's okay, because 2 wicks are stronger than 1. Another thing with double wicks is that you don't have to have double wicking all the way through the coil. If you want to just put this on a device such as the Phoenix, all you have to do is take it and snip it close to the coil. So after you snip this, you still have a single wick all the way through, but right where it gets to the coils, it gets to be a double.